Hey guys, and welcome back to episode 2 of the Digital Artcast. Here again with myself, Gordon Neill, and Colin Searle. Say hi, Colin.
Hey everybody.
Hey. So for the guys who don't know, my name's Gordon and I am a digital artist. Currently studying towards working in the game and film industry. Doing some 2D concept art and 3D basic stuff, and finishing my degree at the moment. Colin, wee quick intro from you.
Quick intro. Hi, my name is Colin. I just graduated from animation at Sheridan. Currently, I'm working for Elliott Animation in Toronto, doing a whole bunch of fun stuff there. I'm also working freelance on the side and trying to keep myself busy, which actually isn't that hard. Yeah.
Yeah, and Colin, for those of you who are listening as well, the audio listeners, Colin will be going a lot throughout this podcast.
Because I'm sick.
As probably everybody is at this time, so yeah.
Yeah, there's something going around, especially here, which is weird because it's the middle of the summer.
I know, it's usually quite typical here because in Scotland, when the summer, it's like the climate's warm, but then it rains a lot, so because you're mixing cotton hold?
Yeah.
Cold and hot so much time, your body just kind of shuts down into sick mode, but yeah, a lot of people
and
just...
all the diseases floating around are just like, oh my god, let's go feast.
Oh god, no. So yeah, please excuse either myself or Colin if we throughout the podcast. So yeah.
I might like cough on my microphone. My mic will just go like, oh shit, that's disgusting.
So someone pair of earphones like, oh my god.
Yeah.
So we're going to break into a few topics this week. We're going to talk about different things. But first, as always, we're going to do a week in review. So I'll kind of start us off. Basics. Yeah, that was going anyway. So yeah, I've just been doing some basic tutorials. I've been trying to get more into the environment stuff that I was studying with Miche Kutiara. The guy is based. Well, he was working for Naughty Dog. I think he primarily does a lot of freelance stuff for himself and Learn Squared at the moment. So I've been doing his environment stuff, but finding something out that I didn't really know much about environment painting, especially, was that the history side you have to go into to really understand architecture.
Oh yeah, you're doing the exact same stuff that I'm doing right now. Like, you really have to do a lot of research.
Yeah, I mean, he breaks it down into like your kind of your megalithic structures and stuff like that. It's like 300 BC, and then breaking up towards your Sumerian, ancient Egypt, and then Greek, Roman. Even stuff like learning, like obviously like the Romans and stuff, like, you know, concrete came across and how concrete actually affected structures, obviously past that, and how they introduced arches like in the Colosseum. So just trying to, you know, take notes, but understanding so much stuff. And I think obviously up until this point I was just painting pretty pictures, and didn't really realise that a lot of concept stuff you do.
But now you're painting pretty pictures that have a lot more thought put into them. And by thought, I mean like research, and you're like, okay, this is actually what this is. This is not just something that looks nice.
Yeah, basically, when you're painting like a structure, if you were going to the megalithic stuff, you're thinking, oh well, it was, you know, like that the kind of prehistoric stuff was based in mud and straw and grass. There wasn't any real building block structures. It was just blocks on top of blocks, and that obviously helps when you're painting.
Slaves to put the blocks there.
Yeah. Oh no, even just looking at something like, you know, Miche was talking about the pyramids in Egypt and talking about, you know, such an iconic structure, but one of the individual blocks that makes up the pyramid structure was the size of one person, so to build them took, you know...
It probably cost one person too.
Yeah. For every guy who put a brick up, he died. So interesting stuff. So I'm doing his environment stuff, which I've just kind of started, so I'm just breaking into the history side of it, but then I think he's moving on to light and texture next. So
how long is this course that you're taking?
The Learn Squared course is, I think, roughly, oh god, no, I'm going to try and say this. It's about 60 hours.
Oh my god, that is like almost a college level course.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, so...
Or college length, I should say.
Very involved, a lot of stuff different with, obviously, he breaks it down into kind of like basic, intermediate and advanced, and he talks about, you know, your basic research, building stuff in light and shapes and like kind of black and white, and then adding colour, how to, you know, change the light so structures look three-dimensional, add texture for materials. There's a whole gambit of stuff. If you guys want to check it out, Miche Kutiara on Learn Squared, he has a whole course there you can sign up for. Much like when I bought Noah's Ark Camp as well, that was obviously really involved as well, and
he's directly involved in that, and he has a whole bunch of instructors that also go through people's stuff too.
Yeah. Oh well, Titus was the other guy who obviously has done a course now there as well. So, but Noah's done 2 other art camps since he's just launched Art Camp 3, which is a whole focus on environment painting for games and movies. So
Hmm.
yeah, definitely off the. It's the money though, because obviously we know his stuff. It's priced obviously well, but it's no money I've got lying about. So
Yeah.
I'm just doing what I can when I can. So yeah, definitely. So you've been doing my chase stuff, playing a little bit of games. Actually, on the side of that, because I was getting quite a fan of the Witcher games, which are
Hmm.
actually a book series in Poland. So they're based off a whole book series, which I never knew.
Yeah.
They one of the
Interesting. Just like the Metro series, a lot of games from over in Europe and stuff, they all seem to be, or not all, but a lot of them seem to be based on existing literature, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I mean I didn't even knew. I mean I was speaking to one of my Polish friends and I was talking to him about Witcher and he was saying, "Oh yeah, Witcher, it's been in our country for years." And I was like, "What?" I knew it was made in Poland, and then he was like, "No, it's based on an old book series." And I was like, "Oh, I never knew." But one of my friends also who's into stuff like Witcher and Dark Souls and is a really good artist, the guy Felix, I let you see a couple of weeks back. Remember
Yeah.
yeah, with ink stuff. He recommended a book series by a guy called Joe Abercrombie. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No, maybe.
Yeah,
What?
he does a book called Half a King, and then there's like Half a War, and but
Interesting.
yeah, it's very Game of Thronesy, head on pikes, slaughtered kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I've been starting one of his books called Half a King, and it's very very good. So
You
yeah,
definitely have to do a shite ton of research for something like that. Like you can't not.
yeah. Oh no, definitely. I mean, like the Witcher stuff. I mean, I think even before they released the first game, they spent nearly 2 years or a year and a half, like just pure concepting and researching constantly. So
Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, even The Witcher 3, like the first Witcher was released. God, I'm trying to even think, maybe even like 7 years ago or something like
Six,
that.
7 years ago? Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds about right.
So they've obviously perfected their craft all the way up to the third one, which was the
Hmm.
most critically acclaimed and won the most awards. But yeah, there was a huge thought process went into.
One thing
Yeah,
I don't get is how can such a small team put out a game that's like so huge and like pretty much universally well-rounded? Like it's so good. And the expansion pack, you see some games coming out with like like 2 3 hours of content. It's multiplayer. It's not that big, and then they release like another whole game
yeah.
in
Oh,
an expansion. Like how the hell do they do that?
I know because there was Witcher 3, and then there was I'm trying to mind the one that just
Blood
came
and
out.
Wine, I think.
Blood and Wine,
Yeah,
yeah. So, but no,
Wine and Blood.
it's a huge thing. There was actually a guy from I'm trying to mind where he works. I can't mind specifically, but I know he is a famous artist. It's Derek something. I can never write Derek's
Uh,
surname, but he is a very renowned artist. But he done the cover art for the Blood and Wine expansion. Where Geralt's sitting on like a chair, like a throne, with a monster hanging over him.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was Derek. So, clear throat number one. So yeah, so for a small team, yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, define small team. I mean, I'm not too sure how big. Um,
Well, small team would be like 10 to 12, 15 people ish.
Yeah, I'm trying to make. Oh God. Hold on. Can I remember the name of the studio? I really should. Oh my God, this is
CD
terrible.
Project Red.
That's the one. Oh, I knew Red was in the name. That's terrible. Oh my God. But anyway, so yeah,
CD Project with a K, just because they're European.
yeah. But yeah, because I mean, even a small team. I know the guys who done God of War 3. There was only 80 people on that team, and I think they considered that a
Wow.
small team. So, but then it could obviously be 80 people. There's maybe like 20 of them clerical staff. So yeah, like the rest are obviously their artists, engineers, programmers. So.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, I think even with guys like Rockstar in Edinburgh, who do GTA, obviously,
Yeah.
I think they're 360 at the moment, team wise.
And that's just that one studio. They have a lot of other subsidiaries around the world. One in Oakville, actually, which is like right by where I live.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And well, of course, in the UK, we've got Rockstar North, which are also based in Edinburgh, and then Leeds, which is down south. So, um,
Actually, one of my friends who I graduated with, the one who did her film entirely in VR, she is working for Rockstar just purely by chance, which is crazy because she also lives in Oakville or used to. So,
oh,
you
cool.
know, like holy shit.
Makes some
Although
insight.
it's that particular Rockstar studio, they don't actually do any art there. I think it's mostly programming, development, that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
she's pretty much jumping into, I guess, that kind of stuff. And she basically wants to go overseas as soon as she can, get to the main studio, and be able to do some animation or whatever.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Edinburgh's renowned for the art team. Although they have, speaking of my source there, they have like maybe 16, 17 2D artists, and like I'm sure it's nearly like 100 3D artists.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, so it's a huge thing across
And it makes
the art
sense
side.
because like 3D takes that much longer to do, so you need more people. Whereas
Yeah,
2D art, like not that it's easy, but it doesn't
yeah,
take nearly as long.
yeah. If you want to build an environment in a painting, it's a couple of brush strokes. If you want to do it in 3D, you've got to physically build the walls. So it's
Exactly, and then
yeah,
texture the walls and light the whole thing. It's
yeah.
hard.
So yeah. So anyway, yeah. Completely off topic now. I'm forgetting what we were doing, but that was my week anyway. So yeah.
Whoops.
So basically, doing tutorials, playing a bit of Witcher, and reading some Joe Abercrombie. That was my week in review. So, I say week in review. You'll probably notice, guys, that it's been a couple of weeks since we've done it, but it's just been conflicting schedules between myself and Colin, and obviously I had Comic Con last week. So,
Oh
um,
yeah, how'd that go? Again, we go off topic.
I know. Comic Con was great. You know, the guys who run it are fantastic. The event itself was great. I had loads of good guests. I mean, they had Dave Gibbons across. I don't know if you Dave Gibbons. He is a British comic book artist who drew the Watchmen comics. And he done like
Ooh,
the Kingsman series as well that Mark Miller just releases a film.
yeah.
So he done all that, and
That
we
was
had.
so good. I still can't get over how good
Oh
Kingsman was.
yeah, oh it was brilliant. And then we were at a kind of small award ceremony after, and we gave a lifetime achievement award to Frank Quietly. Um, he's worked a lot with DC and Marvel and Grant Morrison. He's done a lot of Superman stories. He's penciled all of them, and yeah, very very accomplished artist. He's drawn nearly everything that needs to be drawn, comic wise. So, and then we had a couple of other guests, smaller press stuff. Yeah, it was really, the event. It was great. It was just where we were, because the venue set up like a U shape, right? So
Hmm.
in the middle of the U was the main
How big
hall.
is it actually? Like how many people?
There was like over the weekend. I think it was maybe 3,000 ish over the weekend. Maybe a bit
Oh,
more.
cool.
It's a smaller event. It's no like we had MCM stuff, which is like the San Diego Comic Con version of the other one. You know, you get maybe like 40,000 attendance over the weekend. Maybe more.
40,000. Try like 150,000 now.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean the stuff in the States is ridiculous. But obviously we were set up in a small kind of alley.
Yeah.
Kind of both artists either side, but then the main hall was in the middle. So because the sides were kind of like dead ends, people were kind of like walking up them and walking back down. But no, many people were. It was kind of like unless you knew it was there,
Hmm.
you weren't going to really walk up it. And then we also found that there was a couple of guys from the States, like they had big kind of Marvel names, and a girl who wrote for Adventure Time, and they were in like a small room that was off the side of the main hall, but nobody really knew it was there. So yeah, they were quite quiet as well, which wasn't great, obviously, because the guys had spent so much time and money coming across, or came as guests. But um, the event's usually great. Just for some reason this year, the kind of layout didn't help, and then obviously it didn't help as well at the weekend. The rail system was on strike,
Oh wow.
so that caused a lot of problems for inner city people. And then the subway within Glasgow was also under construction. So yeah,
Shit.
yeah, it caused it caused a lot of problems for people trying to get to the event. So yeah,
Transit sucks. It's not. It's like it's all transit.
yeah, I know. I'm like the guy who runs it, Shah Nazir. I mean, he just couldn't have picked a worse weekend. I mean, I think obviously when he picked it, he never had any visions of it happening, but it just all kind of culminated at one kind of point, and it was against him for the start, so it was a shame. But no, it was a great event. I really enjoyed it. It's just obviously it was just a bit more quieter than I would have liked. I would have liked a bit more footfall just to get some prints sold, and because you're paying money to be there for your table.
Yeah, you
Um,
also need to pay money for prints, and you got like probably other upkeep too. Like I've done cons as well. There's all these hidden costs that you don't think of until you actually do it, and you're like, oh shit, I just spent like $300.
yeah, I mean, and then obviously you're trying to recoup as much of that back as you can. So yeah, it wasn't a great weekend for me anyway.
Hmm.
Probably financially probably one of the worst I've done this year. So, but then again, it was my last one because I'm going to now try and obviously focus on building my skill set. So going in next year, I'm going to have a stronger presence there, hopefully. So
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah, that's the hope. So yeah, a mixed week. But anyway, so Colin, what have you been doing the last 2 weeks-ish, anyway.
Yeah, week in review slash almost a month in review, half a month. I don't know. So yeah, I got a huge list here. I'm gonna try to go through it without completely
Well,
blasting everybody with
I can
information.
I can tell you that now we're only 15 minutes in, as far as I can tell. So
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
yeah,
maybe 15, 18, depending on when we
yeah.
started.
Just talk away.
Yeah.
I can edit it.
So I guess I'll start with the most important thing
Yep.
being my day job, which is going. It wasn't going badly before, but I'm sort of like I'm about 8, 9 weeks in, which is around the time when you're supposed to be kind of more or less comfortable, not integrated, but
Yeah.
you know how they say it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get used to what you're doing.
Yeah, just the
And
day-to-day stuff as well, just like learning how your computer works and where you have to sit and where to get coffee, all that kind of mundane stuff.
yeah, exactly. And I'm also starting to meet a lot more people, trading portfolios, realizing that a lot of the people I'm working with are actually, I mean, not that I thought they weren't, but like now that I'm actually seeing all their art, I'm like, holy crap, I'm working with some really good people. And yeah, I'm making a lot of friends. I went out with a whole bunch of people from work yesterday, and I'm also working with two former former Sheridan grads who are in my year, so we're all sort of hanging out, talking to. I'm going to be apartment building neighbors with one of them, which is going to be kind of nice.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, like work is going well. Doing currently I'm doing development work, like I was mentioning before, and I'm also doing board revisions, which is basically you get a storyboard, which one of the other board artists did, and then the revisions for that board, which are sort of written down during the Leica screening, those are split off to about 2 or 3 different people, and I'm one of them. So we go through all the revs, fix the board up. We resubmit it. Sometimes there's additional revs, but sometimes like I could either be busy for like 4 or 5 days out of the week, or I could be busy for a couple hours on one day and then just like do development work for the rest of the week, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And also at work, I may have mentioned working out at the park, halfway through the day, which I'm doing with my boss, who is absolutely like jacked. He's a beast. So I go out with him and his son, and we go to the park. We either do actually no, we do a lot of stuff. We do sprints, hitting a big piece of like ballistic foam with a sledgehammer. It's really really intense, fast, like makes you hurt afterwards kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think last week George got a new drag chute, and so we were doing sprints across the field wearing 2 like sort of racing car parachute drag chute things, plus this like
God.
drag bag thing you got to wear around your waist that has like a 25-35 pound weight in it. So like I mean like it is still a sprint, but you're not going full tilt just because you have so much resistance, and
Jesus.
it hurts like hell, but it's way better than just running by yourself or like working out by yourself. Like that kind of resistance training it's good.
Yeah. I mean, I forgot actually, just what you mentioned, I forgot to say the last 2 weeks I've been really like intensely hitting the gym hard and swimming in between days I'm not doing weights, and I've managed to drop almost or even just a wee bit more than 50% body fat in like 4 weeks.
50%.
No, 15. Oh my god.
Okay, 1.5 is even more reasonable. Jesus.
That would have been like half the person I was 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, 15 is pretty damn good though. Like,
yeah.
Anything over 10% in a couple of weeks is pretty amazing. So yeah, nice.
Yeah, because obviously exercise is, I've noticed with all the guys at the top of the industry, I think they obviously, it's the old kind of acronym where healthy body, healthy mind. So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think George is he's a pioneer of that kind of thinking.
I think if he wanted to, he could do an Ironman, no problem. Like just looking at the guy and knowing what he does, like. Seriously, every day he's like, just like, come on, come to the park. And I'm just like, okay.
Don't kill me.
Yeah, he's also training his son sort of in the ways of the arts. I think his son's either like end of high school or just out. And like he's basically just putting him through the ringer, like, getting him to draw from all the classic, like Loomis and all those drawing books and stuff, which I studied as well. So it's kind of cool to see someone going through the same thing that I did, except more intense because his dad's George Eliot. So yeah, and let me see, what else have I been doing? Oh shit, yeah. So last weekend I got a massive sunburn from this, which actually turned out pretty well because I just covered myself in aloe. But on last Sunday, what we did is I went out with 2 former profs and about I think 15 or so Sheridan students from like year 1 to 4 in animation. So What we did was it was sort of like a tall ship drawing day, except we actually did less drawing and more actual sailing. We ended up sailing. I think it was like the masts were about 100 feet tall. The ship was about 50 meters long, and we
Wow.
were just out in Toronto Harbor sailing this like crazy ship. There's like a Spanish galleon there. There was a Viking ship that had apparently sailed all the way from Norway,
Wow.
past Greenland. So like they were doing it for real, which is pretty cool.
Jesus.
There was hundreds of ships out in the harbor, and meanwhile they're teaching us about how the hell tall ships work while we're sailing this damn thing and trying to draw it as we're on it, which was pretty amazing.
Wow.
And then we all went out for beers afterwards and learned a lot, and it was pretty cool. And I think they're gonna start doing that kind of thing more frequently. Like last thing we did was we went to the Royal Ontario Museum, drew a whole bunch of like sets of armor and stuff. But they think the next thing they want to do is in Kingston, where there's this Fort Henry, I think it was called, like an old War of 1812 fort, I believe, from that far back. Yeah, so we're gonna go up there and draw a whole bunch of stuff. But lots of adventures.
Wow. Jesus.
Yeah. And actually, that wasn't even the last thing we did. We also did more fencing at Life Drawing, which was pretty awesome. Again, like just going to Life Drawing and ending up sword fighting with people. Like it's so cool.
I love how you did it. I'm like, oh, we were sword fighting. It's so cool. And I'm like, Colin, that has two meanings. Yeah, your life drawing stuff I'm always jealous of because, again, like I say, their stuff is more. It's great because it's life drawing, but it's just tamer. It's just the vanilla version of life drawing, which is just people standing naked and then you're painting figures.
Yeah. Which I mean, like we do that kind of stuff too, but I guess it's also good to spice it up, make it more interesting by literally bringing swords.
Yeah, the action. I mean, like even the time you told me the guy dressed up in the Sylvester Stallone stuff, was he Rocky and then he was Rambo.
Yeah, and actually, there's I think the next one coming up is Harley Quinn in terms of that one specifically, and afterwards there's another really interesting costume. I think those happen every 2 weeks.
Oh wow, yeah. Is that the Tunes on Tap?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. No, I'm still trying to hunt down something kind of related to that in Glasgow, but again, a lot of it is there's a small pub in Glasgow. I think it's called the Flying Duck, and they do life drawing sessions, but again, it's just your generic life drawing stuff. It isn't anything particularly fancy, but
yeah,
I definitely want to try and organise something like that because I think it would be more interesting again than the.
You can get a bunch of people together and hire a model. Like it's actually not that expensive. Most models will usually do it for around like 30 an hour is about the standard, which is pretty decent, even though they're only doing 3-4 hours of modeling per day.
Yeah. And if you split it between the cost of the artist, obviously the guys that are getting involved, then it's no, it's not a huge.
It usually works out to around like for a decent crowd, maybe $10 to $12 a person. If we're going Canadian, I'm not sure how it would work out in pounds.
Yeah. But no. I mean, it's definitely something I want to try and look into because again, the life drawn here is great because it obviously is life drawn, but the more exciting stuff I think adds a bit of flair to your normal drawing day. I know my interest in it was sparked more when I saw that guy Simon Fraser I told you about. He does the thing in New York called Dare to Draw. And it's a similar thing. They get usually two guys and they face off against each other in like a kind of classic comic book pose, and then the guys obviously draw the interpretation.
And then you just do whatever the hell you want with it. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. But they do cool things as well. Like they do prizes at the end. Like I think if you have some of the best sketches, you get featured on the website, and you get prizes, and you get other kind of stuff. You get like free pen sets and sketchbooks and signed stuff. So it's quite a good event, and yeah, I wish they would actually try and do it across here in the UK, but.
Yeah, it's really really good practice if you can sort of balance off the more, I'm not gonna say boring, but traditional life drawing with stuff that's a little more interesting, because it also like the drawings you get out of those kinds of sessions might not be as great, but they're I mean like obviously they're way better practice because if you're stressing about it, there's more pressure, then you're gonna learn a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
So a couple more things that I've been doing. I've also, as you've seen, I've tried to been pushing more sort of social media stuff. I've been following Jake Parker for a while and some other people who are really really big on Instagram, Facebook, yada yada. I want to kind of do or start to do, or actually no, continue doing what they've been doing and sort of build a social media presence. So I've been doing a lot more traditional drawing, Instagram, just putting it out there every couple of days, which is apparently what you should be doing. Like rather than post a whole bunch of crap every couple of weeks, try to keep it consistent, or at least they say try to keep it consistent. Post something every 2 or 3 days, maybe every day if you can. So I'm just trying to push that. And that's forcing me to get back into traditional drawing because it's actually quite a bit harder for me to sit down and do a digital drawing when I
Yeah.
get home, just because like I get home pretty late. And I'm just like I don't want to get on the computer, so I just finish up something in my sketchbook that I drew in the train, or
Yeah.
just yeah, that kind of thing,
Yeah. I mean, I
or set up a
know.
new sketch for the next day, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I know myself and one of my friends, Sarah. She actually just graduated illustration, and we set up a thing like a 365 challenge where we try to post something every single day. And I've been doing quite well with it. I've missed a day or two here or there, but rather than like stop, I've just kept going, just kept posting. So I've been trying to do a sketch every single day on my Instagram.
Yeah, it puts a little bit of pressure on you,
Mm.
but at the same time, like it's good because if you can draw one thing every day, that's better than not drawing for a month and then drawing a whole bunch of shit over one day and then not drawing for a month again, you know?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like even last year when I really got back into drawing a lot, it was because I'd done the Inktober challenge.
Hmm.
So obviously it was a drawing every day, an ink drawing every day for 30 days on October, and that,
That was something that Jay Parker came up with, which is pretty cool.
yep, obviously, and that meant that I was pushing that again, drawing every day, and that got me back into trying to study more. So, Jake, yeah, I know. I look at his Instagram feed sometimes, and I'm like, God damn it.
One thing I actually want to do is like when Inktober rolls back around, I want to just be like, I've been doing Inktober for like 5 months, so this is nothing new, you know?
Yep.
And I'll also be in practice because one thing I'm still a little dissatisfied with is like digitally I'm sort of back into it, you know, like I'm not rusty anymore because I stopped for a little bit after school because I was just completely burned out. But
Yeah.
traditionally I'm still actually not quite as sort of prolific, and I guess I'll just say good as I was a couple of years ago when I used to draw a ton traditionally, and then
Yeah.
I started doing digital stuff. I was just like, I'm never going to draw on a sketchbook again. And
Yeah.
then I realized like this is sort of where I came from, you know, when I started 4 or 5 years ago. Like I got to keep doing this because, you know, drawing in different mediums is super important, and it'll keep your skills sharp, and it's just something really really good to do because a lot of people don't draw traditionally anymore. It's the numbers are dwindling, so it's almost becoming kind of like a novelty.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. I mean, there's guys who do some sketchbook stuff work, and I'm always blown away at the quality. And I really do think it's a balancing act. I really think you have to try and maintain both. I think you really have to have a good presence of being able to draw traditionally and digitally. You know, because obviously back in the day, before computers came about, you know, you only had to be able to draw on paper, and then as obviously
Art
Photoshop.
was just that. Like
Yeah.
there was no other option. I mean, there were different mediums in that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, you're painting acrylics or oils, pastels, but I think with the digital age, you know, people are always coming across and saying that it's coming. You need to try and integrate it in your work. And you know, I remember seeing an interview years ago with Jim Lee, one of the DC comic artists, and you know, one of
Oh
the
yeah.
guys said, "What's the scariest thing you can see coming into comics?" And he was like, "Digital." You know, like it's something I've just never spent enough time on. You know, I've always drawn in pencil and ink, and I've just never given enough time yet. And you know, I'm trying to obviously make amends to do stuff now, but it's something I think more and more comic artists need to integrate into their daily life.
Hmm.
Is digital. So I mean, and even like a guy that I follow on Instagram, and I've seen him on Facebook and a couple of cons in America is Carrie Randolph. And
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he has a super stylized look, and he traditionally blue pencils his art out on paper,
I'm just
and then
looking them up. Gary
yeah,
Randolph, Instagram.
yes, he pencils his stuff
No,
out.
not what yoga teacher? No, Gary Randolph art. God damn it.
But yeah, he
Oh,
blue
Kahari Randolph. There
yeah
you go.
Khar yeah. But he pencils this stuff and then scans it in, and all his stuff's done in Photoshop, like your colouring and your lettering and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. But I mean, he blends both. So he does his blue pencils and then his solid pencils on top of that, and then obviously he inks it in Photoshop and colours it. So,
Yeah.
but he has a
Actually, one of the other reasons I wanted to sort of get my traditional skills up to snuff is I'm actually going to be doing a convention this year. After all, I didn't think I was, but
oh cool.
now my friend Julius, who I've done several conventions with before, I think two fan expos and one Toronto Comic Con, which is basically the same thing but smaller. But he's actually going at it alone this year,
All right.
just because he's not currently working full time, so he has time to do a whole bunch of fan art, make prints, buttons, whatever, sort of just do what we were doing before, but doing
Yeah.
it alone. Except he wasn't able to find a table buddy, so he really is going at it alone.
Right.
But the table comes with 2 badges, and over the particular weekend that Fan Expo is happening, I'm actually I might be doing freelance work. In fact, I probably should be, but he sort of needs someone to watch his table when he wants to wander around. And I was just like, I can just come and be your con buddy, and pay for like a quarter of the table, and just do commissions the whole time. So yeah, that's probably what I'm gonna be doing that weekend. So I'm kind of doing a convention, but not really.
Cool. Wow.
I'll be making most of my money off of all of my money off of commissions, and I'll also obviously be helping him out, selling stuff and maybe wandering around, pushing people towards his table. I mean, we've both done pretty well in the past. He actually did quite a bit better at our last con than I did, just because he had actually pushed his painting skills way farther than I had at the time.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see just how far he's come, because I haven't seen a heck of a lot of his most recent fan art stuff. He's mostly been pushing his sort of industry, like matte painting, digital painting kind of stuff. And I'm interested to see how those skills have translated back over to doing, more fan arty kind of stuff. So it'll be really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Carrie's a big hero of mine because his story is very similar to mine's, and his art style is something that I've loved, and I think it's the kind of animation stylized stuff that I really dig. But he actually now has
Same with me, yeah.
Yeah, he's moved over to animation full time because he's just had it's money as well. It's because he was earning pennies in comics, but now in animation he's earning 5 times as much money, and
yeah, 5 pennies as opposed to 1.
Yeah, that's it. Totally, he's a whole 5 pence richer. But no, he had a real struggle. His life was talking about how he left college thinking he was going to be the next Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, and that didn't happen. And then he was working a design job in some random art studio, and then he got laid off, I think, when the internet kind of imploded after 9/11, and then he was just basically working at a candy factory, putting labels in jars. And then he got another kind of art related job not too long after that, and then I think while he was at that job he got offered to do a book called Spider Clan for Marvel, because one of the guys, Scotty Young, that he knew at the time couldn't do it, and
Scotty Young. Nice.
He recommended Carrie, and he was like, I've got a full-time gig now, I don't know when I could do it. But then like his friend sat him down and he was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you've wanted the shot for so long, just do it. And he was like, cool, I'll do it. And then I think he'd done the book. He was doing it in between his day job, so at night he would come home and pencil and do stuff, and then try and get like a couple hours sleep and go back to his job. And he was dying basically. And he said to his art director at the time, he's like, I just need a few solid days off, just maybe like a full week, just to get this book put to bed. And then he done it, and that was his first kind of book. But he struggled for a lot of years, but he does some amazing drawing stuff. His skills are incredible. In fact, I think he done a lot of the art direction and a lot of the stuff for, it was a series, I'm trying to remember what it's called. Is it the Boondock Saints?
Oh, interesting. Okay,
cool. I think it's like an African American show. It was kind of kung fu mixed cartoon, and I'm pretty sure
was it the Boondocks or the Boondock Saints?
Boondock Saints, maybe. I think it was definitely a cartoon. But I think he also does some art direction for Afro Samurai as well. If you can remember that.
Nice. Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah. So obviously because he's dabbled in animation in the past between comics, I think that's when the transition came. But he's obviously now firmly planted in animation because the money's just great, and he can't really complain about that. And it's normal days. You're not working 20-30 hours in a week just on one page. It's he's doing a normal 9 to 5 now. So that's what he enjoys more. So
normal 9 to 5, and you're also getting paid like a steady paycheck. You don't have to worry about is the money coming in or not.
Yeah, commissions and stuff. So yeah, definitely.
Oh my God, Darth Jabba! Holy shit, that's awesome. I'm creeping his DeviantArt.
Yeah, if you guys haven't noticed already, we're talking about Carrie Randolph. So if you can check the guy out, it's Carrie. It's Khary, and Randolph, RAND.
PH.
LOPH, yeah, I think it's right, yeah, Randolph. So, he's a DC comic artist, but his stuff it's incredible. It's really, really good stuff. Super stylized, super comic-y, super awesome.
Yeah, and actually, we're off topic again, which is fine. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
But the last 2 things I wanted to mention was I've also been playing a bunch of games myself, and I was actually thinking back in 4th year when I was doing my thesis film, I actually uninstalled all of the games on my computer and just refused to play anything. A couple of times I broke down and I did it, but I was thinking do I want to do that again now? And I was like, wait a minute, I'm out of school. The pressure's the pressure's not gone, but the pressure's off. And if I want to work in the games industry, I kind of still need to be playing games at least a little bit, and
Yeah,
just like finding a balance is good between freelance stuff and commissions, of which I'm getting quite a bit. I'll talk about that later.
yeah,
But yeah, like I think it's not actually a bad thing to play games. It's just
no,
finding that balance, which is hard. I actually know a lot of artists who have pretty much sworn off games, quite a few actually, which is interesting.
yeah.
Especially people who work in the games industry. But I think that might just because they're a little bit older. They
Mm.
played a lot of games, and they're just like, okay, enough, cool.
Yeah, I know what I'm playing. No, I mean like it's different because obviously games is a stress relief tool, so
Yeah.
it's there to obviously release the endorphins, get you happy. I think you've got to try and balance, like you said, balance. It's all about balance. So you're no 15 anymore. You're not sitting in your room alone with a gamepad for hours at a time. You've got to try and play these things, but in moderation. And
Hmm.
but I think it's still good to obviously encompass those things into your daily routine because not maybe daily, but into your routine because they do also, like film and books, feed your imagination. So, I mean, I know definitely walking around Tamriel and places like Skyrim, places like Witcher, these big vast places with all these people, it does feed your brain with ideas.
So much cooler than real life.
Oh man, I know. I mean, even like the silliest thing, like I'm trying to write a comic just now, so I'm trying to write like a kind of horror comic. And I'm trying to come up with ideas of like how I'm going to base it. And I've roughly gone with vampires, but I'm still again, thinking where it's going to go. But I watched an anime the other day, and I cannot remember the specific name, but it's something like Twin Exorcists. And it's about two people who meet, and they're both like exorcists in Japan, but they can go into the demon world and they fight demons.
Hmm.
Um, Even just watching one episode of that, I was like, holy shit, that's given me so many ideas for like where I could take my book into, like going into demon realms and fighting guys and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, people always say like with your cartoons and stuff, there's a point you've got to try and take it out of your life if you want to have a serious career. But I still think that stuff is great for feeding your imagination. Definitely, 100%.
Hmm.
So
And actually, one of the reasons I was thinking, maybe I want to uninstall all my games and
yeah,
focus like 100% on, commissions, full-time work, or just studying and getting better.
yep,
It was mostly due to just like this internal sort of like stress and worry and drive that was left over from school. And like during school, that was cool because that's what you have to do in school, like study your freaking ass off. But once you're out, like you can kind of let those worries sort of slide.
you
I've
can
been
lead a
listening
normal
to a
life.
lot of
Yeah,
yeah, I've been listening to a lot of Dale Carnegie, who lived a very long time ago. He wrote a bunch of books in like way back in the 1920s and 30s. If you've ever heard of How to Win Friends and Influence People, probably his most famous book.
oh yeah,
That's Yeah, he also wrote a book on literally how not to worry. And so I've been listening to those audiobooks and I'm just like, wow, there's really no point in getting stressed about getting better because I know it's going to happen. Like within the next 5 years, I'm not going to be, worrying about my skills that much as long as I keep going like I am. So like just enjoy life, play video games, do lots of cool work and yeah, like things are good.
yeah. I mean, it's like even simple stuff like training when you're training in the gym and stuff like that. People always say the importance of having like not only your rest day but your cheat day because you can't just rob yourself at every basic human need. You have to eventually try and reward yourself at some point. So
Yeah.
going out for a few drinks, going out, in a club, in a bar, hanging
We're
with
wired
friends.
to need things like that.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, like even that, like studying. And this is a huge thing. I think it's a topic among itself, but the thing I've not really coped with well enough, which is due to a lot of my anxiety stuff that I deal with, is that you're inside so much of the time and you're not amongst a lot of people. You're sitting studying by yourself with books or computers, and you're not really surrounded by people. The idea is that a lot of people have kind of cinched that I haven't is that you need to, as much as you can, get out and interact with people because you kind of become a social hermit if all you do is sit in and study.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's some guys obviously who spent most of their life just studying, but there's got to be a balance of still being a human being. You know what I mean? So,
I think
interacting.
that's probably a good way to lead into what we were going to talk about next, which is networking, which is
Oh yeah, yeah,
like
definitely.
you gotta be able to interact with people and not be a total dick, or at least not
Yeah,
be super awkward and turn people off.
I love that
Which
segue. It
is
was brilliant.
yeah, yeah, I know, right? It was actually kind of awkward, but you know what? It works. Cool.
Yeah. I know. I mean, definitely. So if you guys don't know, our main topic of this week is social media presence and networking.
Just gonna skip over the E3 stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, look, I mean, there's probably plenty enough we could talk about this anyway. But yeah, we'll maybe pop into E3 next week. But networking stuff. networking's a huge part of being an artist. There's, if you look at guys like Noah Bradley, who are obviously the more recent successes, he had kind of two rules, which was make good shit and show it to people.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people do the first thing and not the second thing, and that's the key ingredient to becoming better. Not because you're just showing people work, but because then that invites people to have feedback in your work, which obviously helps you grow as a person and an artist. So when obviously, even like I'm going back 5 years now when I left my job, one of the first guys I emailed was a guy called Matt Gazer. If you haven't checked him out, check out mattgazer.com. Matt is a huge artist. He's worked in so many jobs. Fun fact, actually, his first job was doing backgrounds for Rugrats, the TV show.
Ooh, nice.
Way back in the day, for the Russian company that run it.
It is way back in the day.
But then he's worked with guys like Lucas. He's done Clone Wars. He's done DreamWorks, Universal, Sony Pictures. He's done a lot of stuff. So, I emailed him and I said, look, I'm a fan of your work. Your stuff's really inspired me. I'm looking to leave my job and go into work in concept art. Any advice? It was quite a big email. And this kind of is the thing as well about networking with people is basic human lessons is that don't be a dick. Be polite. Obviously, if you know their work, try and mention it because they'll probably get so many generic emails. If you say like, oh, like I was like, oh, I really loved your stuff in Clone Wars. It was really inspiring. Especially the painting you done in Yoda. It was great. And then it was only maybe 3 or 4 months later. But I was patient, and that's another thing with networking is patience. People don't get back to you right away. Don't
send like 10 other emails being like, hey, sent you an email like 5 weeks ago. What the hell, man?
Yeah. And eventually, because I just sent him the one, Matt just emailed me back and it was just, hey Gordon, thanks for emailing me. And he sent me a whole A4 page, maybe two, of
Holy
just
shit.
just things to look out for when I leave my job, colleges that I should look at, artists I should look at, techniques to study. And I still speak to Matt to this day, and he was the guy that I was gonna show your Star Wars stuff to.
Ooh, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you did show me his stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Matt, he's been a big influence on my career thus far. But yeah, networking again is, and I've got guys on my Facebook, and this isn't a sense of bragging, but just to explain, I have guys on my Facebook now who are from ILM, who are from DreamWorks, who are from Sony Studios, 343 Industries. A guy from Sony Santa Monica, just for example, and obviously I speak on and off on Messenger to guys like Titus Lunter, but that has come through a long time of being patient, of adding one person and then getting advice off them and speaking to them and then talking away to them about art, and then just on the odd occasion I would maybe try and add somebody else that I quite admired their work, and then eventually.
Most of them are pretty open to, as long as you're nice about it, to like, giving you advice, talking to you. I haven't really encountered an artist of that caliber yet who is just like a total, not very nice person.
Yeah. I mean, definitely the biggest person I think I've got on my Facebook to date is still Scott Robertson. That blew me away. Meeting him a couple of weeks ago and then getting him on Facebook, it's been crazy good. Mostly update pictures of him building his hot rod car, but yeah, a great guy, really super polite. But you always find that at the top of the game, the guys at that level are super nice people, and they always talk about the main rule in being successful. And people who are successful always want to bring other people up with them. They always want to encourage people and mentor, and probably why a lot of artists and the successful ones always try to turn to teaching eventually, because they want to pass back the things they've learned to other generations.
And not only that, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last podcast, but I was watching a lot of Ian McCaig, like his own interviews and stuff. But yeah, his philosophy on teaching is probably my favorite. And basically, what he says is like the way you sort of know, what did he say? The way you the way that you can kind of confirm with yourself that you know what you're talking about is to teach it. Because if you can pass it on, then you've actually sort of become an expert or mastered it, or that kind of thing. And it's your own way of sort of confirming that, like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because obviously you can teach somebody else to do the same thing confidently. Yeah.
Not only that, but teaching different people how to do the same thing and having to sort of modify what you know and how you say it so other people can understand it, coming from a whole bunch of different learning styles. And that's sort of a really good way to solidify what you know yourself.
Yeah. I mean, and definitely when it comes to networking, again, like we're saying, these guys that we meet are super super nice people, but at the end of the day, they are human beings. You know, they've got schedules, they have day
Yeah.
jobs. And you know, especially like the successful guys, they're super super busy with work. So, like we said, if you're gonna email anybody, if you're gonna message anybody on Facebook, anything like that, politeness is the key factor here. We cannot stress that enough. You just have to be patient and always, you know, thanks very much for getting back to me. It's great that you can email me. You know, just be nice, because then they'll want to interact with you more. You know, it's
Yeah. And like if someone doesn't get back to you like, in like 2 weeks, it doesn't mean that they don't like you or they hate you or they think that what you sent was like, wrong or bad or whatever. It's just that they're super busy.
Yeah.
And like, wait for it, forget about it, and maybe a month or two if you get a reply back, you'll be like, "Oh, cool. Yeah, yada yada." Exactly like what you're talking about.
Yeah. And obviously you've got to structure, especially if you're emailing people. If you're just messaging people on Facebook to try and add them sometimes, people are also a bit wary because a lot of artists use their Facebook as a personal outlet as well, so they don't want to mix that with people who are, fans or into their work. But if you're emailing people, like I say, try and make it as kind of concise as you can. If you're asking, don't just email like, "Hi, how are you doing?" Like, if you're looking for specific feedback on a piece or a technique that you're trying to accomplish that maybe they're an expert in, or even just, that you're looking for maybe some general advice on a specific topic, that's what I'm saying. Make it specific. When I left and I emailed Matt initially, one of my first emails I sent to a creator, I was like, going forward into school, what should I be looking for to learn? What kind of artist should I kind of study that would be a good influence for the style I'm going for? So yeah, again, when you're emailing people, you want to try and be as specific as possible to what you want them to help with, because they're not just probably going to email you back straight away if it's just like, "How are you doing?" or "Do you fancy adding me on Facebook?" If it's
they
like,
have no reason to, because they're like, "Okay, what do I even say to this person?"
Yeah, and they'll probably get, some of the bigger guys, especially guys like Scott or Matt, and they'll have emails every day with guys asking for advice. So the more interesting it is to read, the more enthusiastic they're going to be about emailing you back. So yeah, I mean, even like, Colin could probably talk about, a great thing I think would be to cover in this would your interactions with George leading up to you getting employed. I mean, that must have been a networking process for you, like meeting them at first and showing them your work. So yeah,
like it was honestly the first time that anything like that had really happened. Like I talked to big awesome artists or people who own studios before, or people that I really looked up to, but with him, George has got this really really good way of I would not be surprised if he's read Dale Carnegie, or at least knows those sort of like people skills that you actually have to pick up and research and study yourself. But it was interesting how fast he basically got my respect, and he made me want to work for him, because like he understood who I was and what I wanted to do, and like some of those things didn't actually align with what his studio puts out, but he also had stuff that I would really really be interested in doing. So basically, like what our sort of unofficial deal was, I'd work on stuff that the studio was putting out, which is a ton of fun. And, like I'm learning a lot, which is the boards. I might actually maybe be transitioning into full storyboards, but also with the development stuff that he's having me do, it's like Star Wars concept art. Like it's exactly what I want to be doing. It's all drawing right now, no painting so far, but
cool.
Like I'm basically able to draw exactly what I want to draw. Like I can't say what it is, but it's cool. It's exactly what like it's up my alley. Like everyone I tell about it, that I can tell about it, they're like, "Huh, well, looks like you pretty much ended up in the exact same place that you needed to." And I was just like, "I know, right?" So yeah,
you get paid to do it.
George is a really really good getting paid to do it, but he's a really really good guy to learn from, because he's like, one of the masters of networking. Like he's got to talk to all these different clients and people of his studio, because it's a boutique studio. They take on about half of their work is taken on from other studios, and they also obviously pitch their own shows, which I believe that's how the show that they're working on now came around. They pitched it to someone, got a whole bunch of money for it, now they're doing it, so it's original. But yeah, like he's got to talk to a lot of people. He's got to get people excited about what he's planning on, what he's doing. But yeah, like he's a really really good guy to learn from.
So how did you initially meet George? Did he attend an event, or did you email him, or did anything like that?
So basically what happened is I knew of his studio, but I didn't know of him himself. And he's actually a pretty big figure in the Toronto animation gaming industry, so like a lot of people know about him. Cool. Because I was so sort of like under a rock at school, I didn't. But he actually came to Sheridan to do a lecture on sort of the different types of studios in Toronto, being small, big, like corporate, boutique, that kind of thing, comparing his studio to places like Chorus or Nelvana or that kind of thing. And then he did portfolio reviews after. I can't remember if I mentioned this in the last podcast, but yeah, basically, afterwards he was doing portfolio reviews, and a couple of his former interns were in the room as well, and they're all like, "Colin, show George your film," and I was just like, "All right, cool, whatever." So I showed George my film, which is about 95-ish% done, so pretty much there.
Yeah.
And he watched it, and he was just like, "Okay, how many people were working on this?" And I was just like, "Me." It was a solo film project, George. I'm in fourth year. And he was just like, "Oh, cool. All right, awesome." And he watched it again, made a couple of comments. I gave him a business card, and I was just like, "Okay, cool. You know, like, awesome guy. Learned a lot from him."
Yeah.
Next day, he gives me a phone call, and I was just like, "Oh, shit. Oh, my God." And he's just like, "Hey, you want a job?" And I was just like,
"Oh, shit."
Yes. That's, yeah. I will have. I did tell him that I was going to have to hold off for a little bit because Industry Day hadn't happened yet. I hadn't sort of gotten all my offers in, and I did actually get quite a few really, really awesome offers. Like one for Behavior Interactive in Montreal.
Oh, cool.
They've worked on like Halo 4, Far Cry 3, all that shit.
Nice.
I think they're working with Cloud Imperium on Star Citizen right now, and that's actually one of the things they wanted me to do because of all the sci-fi spaceship stuff in my portfolio and in my film.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, George's offer was the best because I figured that, like, rather than going off to Montreal, I can stay in Toronto, can learn a hell of a lot more from him right off the bat, and obviously from everyone else at the studio. It was just like it was the perfect offer.
Yeah.
So yeah, for now, for the remainder of my contract there, and possibly for a second one if that happens, like I'll be learning a shit ton, getting a lot better. Like I don't really have to worry right now.
Yeah. It's
all because I ran into him and somehow navigated that networking field pretty well, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, again, that's a good thing for you as well because it's no as much pressure, like you said, moving so far away just after graduating, and you're still kind of fresh out the gate, and you want to try and still find your feet in the industry, and and like you say, George,
living in a city that I actually know pretty well. I was born there. Yeah. Like it's really not. I mean, obviously it's a little bit stressful, but it's not nearly as stressful as going to the States where everything is on fire, or going across overseas where everything is soon to be on fire. Like stay at home. Where you're familiar, where you've been before, where a lot of your friends are. It's all good.
Yeah. Of course, they're still building that wall in Canada to separate Canada and America. So yeah, that's
yeah. Or at least they should.
Yeah. So I mean, like even with George, obviously, him phoning you straight away. I mean, with interactions you've had with other artists, even in the studio, have you found there's a mentality you've had to adapt to talk to people, or is it just like, are you just being yourself? Is that the kind of thing, or?
Actually, in the studio it was interesting because I'm not working on any of the. Actually, for the first 6-7 weeks, I wasn't on any of the actual production teams. But now that I'm sort of in the storyboarding section, I guess, even though I'm not in the same building as them right now, because obviously the studio's spread out over 3 buildings. But I'm sort of meeting a lot more people, and for the first month or few weeks, I was pretty much lone wolfing it. Just kind of getting a feel for what's going on, not really talking to a heck of a lot of people. Obviously, I'm being polite, nice, saying hi to everybody, striking up small conversations, but I didn't really know anybody well. But it was weird. About a week ago, all of a sudden, it's just like the dam bursts, and I just met a bunch of people. Everyone's really nice, great studio mentality that I hadn't really noticed before, but it was mostly just because I was integrating. Like I never worked at a big studio before, didn't really know what to expect. I was just like, okay, kind of weird, but all of a sudden things just sort of start to work, and you just and one of the things you got to really, really watch is you can't shoot yourself in the foot while you're going through that stage of transition. So the best thing to do, honestly, is just keep your head down. Don't try to, don't be like a major negative, but also don't strive to be like a major positive, because chances are, if you try to go for that, this is going back to what Chris Hadfield was saying about being a +1 or a -1. It's better to shoot for 0, because then like you're not risking. How do I want to say this? I don't want to misquote the guy. You're basically not risking screwing up by trying to get ahead really, really fast. Just like, be there, be present, but don't try to stretch too far too fast. Things will eventually work out, and if you're good and you work hard, and people will start to notice, and people do, and you'll start to make friends. So that's a really, really good way of going about it. And I mean, for the first couple of weeks, it's gonna be awkward. Like I integrated into 2 workplaces now, and my internship in this one, and it takes about a month, maybe 2, and then things will work out.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think the thing that has probably pushed me on, even though my art isn't great, well, not at the stage I'm obviously wanting it to be, but everybody I speak to who is an industry professional who has dealt with a lot of people like me always tell me one kind of universal thing, which is great, which is although I don't have the talent yet, I have the right attitude, which is a great thing for me because obviously.
Remember what I said about talent? It's not talent. It's
no, that's it. Yeah. Well, this is how they phrase it, Colin. So, no, but I know what they mean. Yeah, obviously, your talent is your hard work. Yeah, it's the time on task. Yeah, definitely. But they were saying obviously, although my art isn't where I want it to be yet, I do have the mentality that is sought for this kind of industry, which is very polite, always keen to learn, listens to feedback, integrates what they say into your work.
And it's clear that you're working hard and you actually want to get somewhere. It's not like you're just, it's not like you don't, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of, it's two kind of stroke for me. One is, it's my dream. Two is, if I don't make it at this career, it's like 5 years wasted. I left a good paid job, a really good job, to go back and be an artist, which is at the moment a lot of money. So because also I'm at the stage where I'm still learning, so I don't have any kind of like full-time gig yet with a lot of cash. So to give up all those things to go back, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think even if I'd done this in this career and failed, which I'm not gonna, but if it did happen, I would still have not only my diploma in graphic design, I'd have my honours degree in 3D animation. So I probably could find a decently well-paid job with just my degree. So yeah, I mean, but no, the goal is to definitely be. And I read an article by a guy called Titus Lunter of Magic fame and Ubisoft. He actually put a whole blog actually of how, like, you have to have the idea behind concept that. Well, this is specific to concept art, but I think it applies to a lot of things as well. Is that you have to be prepared to miss a lot of opportunities and events like birthdays and going out and stuff, because concept especially is a job that involves you learning nearly every single day, whether it be a painting technique or even just history in general or how the world was
research,
formed.
reference, that kind of thing.
Yeah, loads of stuff. It's just such an involved job because you have to really adopt the right mindset. And people look at the concept art in games and books and think, I could do that, I could paint a fancy picture, but people didn't realize
so much more than that.
So much stuff goes in behind. Like if you're painting even stuff like God of War, for instance, like not even thinking about the Nordic face it, but when they done the ancient Greek thing, I mean, obviously it was embellished a bit because gods didn't really come down from the heavens and spew lava, but it's
got to be grounded in some kind of reality, something that's come before, so people can buy into it.
I mean, like the one example I would say, and it's a great example, is when I was doing my Chase environment study, was about the Corinthian style plateaus and columns that they made within the Greek structures, and how every column was individually different, and depending on how it was flourished or embellished or built, it meant a different type of like social standing. Like a lot of the richer people had the more embellished Corinthian style columns that were like, they had the leaves at the top and they had the turn twists at the top, and they had I'm trying to think, a base which was called as a cliff or something like that. But but all this kind of stuff that would obviously, when you paint it in, people just think, oh, that's a column. But when the guy would paint it, he would say, oh well, it has to be this type of column because it's part of the Zeus temple, so it has to be the most elaborate and most embellished columns. I mean, even stuff like going way back, watching. If you've never watched it on YouTube, go and watch it. It's the making of The Last of Us. Naughty Dog. One of the painters was talking about. He was painting a scene, right? Because he's read this book called The World Without Us, which is a great book. And he talks about how and in the snow scene at the bottom of this tree, he's left a little space where there isn't any snow at the base of the tree. Because if you read into the kind of chemistry and biology of how a tree's made up, at the bottom of the tree where the roots are, it produces the most energy. So at the bottom of every tree, there would be a small gathering where there wouldn't be snow because the tree has melted it with its energy. So like that's the level of thinking going into a painting for a video game. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. That's the level you need to get to when you're painting that kind of stuff. Most people would just paint trees and snow, but he was like, oh no, well, trees actually produce energy at their base, so there wouldn't be snow there. So
and I think one of the biggest things about illustration or concept art is when you're a real like big time working professional, you can't be worrying about technique so much. You pretty much have to have that down and mastered, because you have to be putting stuff out that's consistently good that an art director can then show to, like a client or someone who's funding the project and be like, bam, this is it. And they're like, no, I want this idea. Then they give the thing back to you, and you can't be worrying about technique when you're revising it and putting in all that additional research.
Yep.
And like researching architecture. Then you give it back to them. They're like, no, something else. And then like you have like an hour or two to get it back. Do something completely different or revise the painting again. And you just like you got to be at that level where you can't be worrying about technique. It's got to sort of already be there.
Yeah, and again, this kind of it folds back into, although it's drifted a bit, but it does fold back into networking when you're asking people about work for your paintings. The guys who will probably look at your stuff. One time when I started drawing a forest scene, I know somebody said to me, look at your trees. I would really encourage you, Gordon, to go out and like sit physically at a tree and draw it a million times till you know what trees look like. Your trees are cool just now, but basically they're just lines with lines coming out of them. There's nothing that tells me this root is connected to a tree and feeds into the bottom of the tree, which then forms other roots. There's so much you need to take in with how leaves are formed on branches and how the leaves interact with sun and how light actually passes through like the gaps in the leaves and just the higher level. And that's what I'm saying, when people feed back to you, you're going to want to be addressing specific things that they'll probably say, I've noticed in a lot of your paintings, when you paint, you use this type of colour scheme or use a lot of warm colours, and do you find that your palettes, because of this stuff you pay attention in life, and they may be like, oh yeah, well actually, when I go out and take pictures, I usually paint more at sunset than sunrise, or there's more warmer than cooler colours. So again, that's the thing with networking is trying to encompass all your work and then feedback from people, and obviously integrate that feedback into your work, and then that's what helps you grow, makes you a better artist. So
yeah,
and even social media is a huge thing now. There is there's so many outlets like The Grind, like Level Up, where you can just put one picture out and you can instantly get like maybe 20-30 artists immediately saying, well, composition wise you can move this here or you can move this there. Obviously me and Colin, we initially met or communicated through one of the websites, one of the Facebook groups, and this is obviously now this relationship we've built together as working professionals. Colin will help me with my work if I need it, or I can obviously help him with some things to meet people. But that's the thing with networking, and it's the unlikeliest of things. People always look at
we're stronger together.
Yeah, definitely. And people look at these groups thinking sometimes they're a waste of time. Look, these guys are rank amateurs. What do they know about art? But and I look at these groups, there is, the guy Derek I spoke to about earlier who done the Witcher painting. He was one of the co-founders of Level Up.
Yeah.
So and they've
all kind of moved on, but for a while they were really really going at it. They were making it a big thing.
And that's what I'm saying. That kind of stuff, stuff like Level Up is huge, because not only do you get the opportunity to feed back to so many people so quickly, they also have huge interviews with big artists. They've interviewed Noah and they've interviewed Titus and a ton of other people. And it's great because for the first time in many a millennia, people can sit and look at guys they individually inspired to be like, and listen to them talk about their career, their art techniques, what brushes they use, how they build a painting. I know Level Up used to do a thing where they would get the guy, is it Circa, one of the guys that came on, and he done a live painting, so you got to watch start to finish how he painted, all the way through. Which is
a lot of people take this stuff for granted now, but like you just gotta kind of sit there and consider, like, holy shit, like this is like. Even 10 years ago, this wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And like speed painting on YouTube is obviously like it's something that people really do take for granted. And like I don't know. I know how people did it 10 years ago. They just sat down and painted themselves. But it's so much easier now, and there's so many resources out there. Like it's almost like if you want to get good, the resources are there, and you pretty much just have to put the time in. Like there's no excuse now. Like you can get good, and as long as you put the time in, like it's gonna happen.
Yeah, even people used to be limited to just what their lecturers told them or what they would get from books, but now there is. You can YouTube Noah Bradley, and you can sit and watch him talk about painting for hours. Like
and you can pick and choose, what you want to listen to. Like if you don't for example, if for some reason, some crazy insane reason you don't like Noah Bradley, you could just switch over to someone else who you do like, or you do sort of agree with the opinions of, that kind of thing.
Yeah, guys like Noah and every other artist now has stuff like, some have a Tumblr, some have an Instagram, some have a personalised Facebook page just for their art. And you can go and you can grab one of their art pieces. You can sit and stare at it for 3 hours. You can actually pick it off the internet, put it in Photoshop, and try to copy it. You can do studies that way. I mean, there's so much stuff that is just sitting at literally at your fingertips, that will help you improve. And of course, you know, when we talk about building a social media presence, it's the same thing. You know, if you want some feedback on your work, make an Instagram. Take pictures,
Yeah.
take pictures of your paintings, put them up, tag them, and then people will look at them and comment on them. The same with Facebook. You know, make a Facebook page for yourself. Or if you're not confident enough to make your stuff solo, post your stuff on Facebook groups and get feedback. That's the best way to do it. It's how we've all learned. I mean, I'm sure Colin at one time would have posted something online and waited for people to say, "That's great, man, but you should move the staircase to the left instead of the right." And
Yeah, that was me. That was me 2 years ago. Summer after second year, like every day, posting something and level up. And most of it was pretty bad. In fact, I would say close to all of it was pretty bad. But that was sort of when I really got, like, I'd been in school for 2 years already, but that was when I consider my real start to be, because that's when I really started to take it seriously.
yeah, definitely. And that's the same for me. And obviously, with the summer and the second year, I'm sitting most days doing tutorials or drawing or painting, to try and, you know, get my artistry up as much as I can. You know, and I'm still at a level obviously where I'm not as happy as I could be with a lot of my stuff. But I've probably been more reserved online now. I'm not posting really every single painting I'm doing online. I'm pretty much just doing studies just for me at the moment. And then
Yeah.
if I'm doing a solo project or I'm doing a painting, I'm no immediately, you know, spent like 3 hours on it just posting it up. I'm trying to push it further, try and take it to that finished kind of standard, which I think that's a huge topic in itself, is finishing a painting. But yeah, I mean, because obviously, again, going back to Noah here, but he talks about how you should try and not get attached to every single piece you make. You know, do like,
Because there's 1,000 more that are coming afterwards, as long as you actually keep at it.
do like 6 or 7 paintings at least, and then look amongst those 6 and 7 and go, oh, right, okay, well, that one has the most potential. I'll try and post that and see what that gets. Because obviously, once you do one painting and you do a second and a third, or, you know, by painting 7, you'll maybe want to post painting 7, because that's the one you've spent the most time, or the one you've used more techniques to make it more rounded and more finished. So yeah, definitely. Social media, guys, is a huge thing.
It is changing. Like, a lot of the different sites are, you know, like they're putting in different algorithms, or, you know, like they're doing things differently than they did even 5 years ago, and that's another thing to keep in mind. But overall, it's still a really, really good tool. And like, sometimes I get frustrated with it, but, you know, it just takes time, and it takes consistency. Like, consistency is big, you know.
Yeah.
Like even posting every week is kind of dangerous, because if your fans start to fall off, then, you know, they're just not going to see your stuff when you start posting it again. So I think with the new algorithms that a lot of the sites are using, like Facebook, Instagram, whatever, consistency is big. Every 2 to 3 days, I think, should be mandatory.
Yeah. I mean, like, every day is ideal. Once a week is probably no great. So somewhere in the middle, like Colin says, is the happy medium anyway.
Yeah.
The place you should look to be. Especially, I mean, like, a thing as well, I think we'll cover just before we wrap up, is with social media, there's a thing, not only just in social media, but as just an artist in general, you really need to develop, because it has a huge mentality going into this industry, is developing a thick skin.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, because, as Colin will probably tell you, not every comment you get will be positive.
Not even not positive. Sometimes even negative comments can help you, but a lot of the comments you get are just going to be dumb.
Yeah, I know.
Not helpful.
Like, cool painting, bro, needs more dragons and shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of, I mean, people, I mean, especially when you're crossing across, like, stuff like Instagram and Facebook, everybody has that. You know, ArtStation upon itself, ArtStation, that's a whole topic for itself, but
I think ArtStation's a bit more of, like, it's definitely more of a professional battleground, but there's also things with it that I'm, you know, like, I like it a lot more than a lot of other mediums, but there's also things about it that I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can't hate on ArtStation too much, because I've gotten 3 freelance clients from there so far, just from having my stuff on there. Like, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I mean, like, the thing with ArtStation now, even is, it's like DeviantArt was years ago and still is that anybody can have an account. So
they don't vet you anymore. Actually, yeah, I think back when I got on ArtStation, I actually had to be, I don't know if it was invited, but it was the beta, so they weren't letting just anybody in back then.
Yeah, I mean, definitely when the guys built it, it was a very early adoption. Only professionals could be in it, but now obviously, like,
which kind of begs the question: how the hell did I get in? I can't remember.
But yeah, thick skin because I mean, like we'll cross all barriers here because we're discussing it openly. But you'll go from people saying your work is great, your work is inspiring, I want to be like you, to it's an alright painting, to this is shit, to this is just fucking kill yourself. So like,
And that's not helpful.
nah,
No.
that's the wide gambit. I mean, like, and don't get me wrong, we're not trying to put you off here, but I think even thick skin comes into simple stuff like because, I mean, I know for me personally, when I sent my first couple of paintings to Matt, he was like, which is great because he's a professional, he knows how to word it. He was like, these are great. However, what you could be doing better is, and at the time when I painted in my local area of, where I live just now in my town, I was the greatest painter there. But then, when I hadn't opened my eyes and seen what was online and other people, when people start going, oh well, this is great, but you really could have done this, and you really could have, you're kind of like, oh well, I thought it was pretty good. But then you still have to develop and say, like, Matt isn't criticizing that I am terrible. He's
It's
like,
not personal.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's actually a really, really good way of sort of thinking about or giving feedback. Like, never make it personal about the person. Like, just
Yeah.
because they did something that might not be as good as everything else out there, it's not that they're a bad person or they're worthless or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
just that, you
They're
don't have the
learning.
time on task yet.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, guys show me stuff at conventions, or people email me stuff that they've done, and I was in their shoes only a couple of years ago, and I'm always like, this is great, but on your next one,
It's great because you're doing it. It's just like going out and working out. Like, even if you go out and work out for 20 minutes, it's better than not doing anything.
oh shit,
Same
yeah,
with drawing.
yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, example the other day, I was in the gym, and I was struggling to do some particular weight set from a bench press, and the guy was like, "Do you want me to spot you?" I was kind of like, I'd never spoke to a guy at the gym. I was like, "Ah, cool, you can help me." And then he was like, "When you lift, you want to maybe try and turn your arm just a wee bit, or you want to cross your grip or make it a wee bit wider." And then at the time, most people would be like, "Get away from me! Don't talk to me." But at the same time, I was like,
But if the guy is super jacked, he clearly knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe his advice will be good.
yeah. So the same with guys who are working for Sony, who are working for all these big studios. If they're saying your work is great, but do this or look at this or study the study your the things, guys. When I started, were like, study your foundations more, look at perspective, look at your lighting. It's like you don't have to go at them. Ah, well, fuck you guys, you don't know anything. They do, and they're telling you stuff to make you.
There's a
better
reason
artist.
that they're there.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
went through the exact same thing that you did, just potentially even a little while ago. There was a thing that Ian McCaig was saying. He was just like, yeah, there's people out there who are like 23, 24 to like 30 who are painting like they're 40 or 50. Like, they have 10 more years of experience. And that goes
Yeah.
back to the whole digital art thing, digital age thing, where you can learn 20
Stuff
years
like-
of experience in
yeah.
a couple of years, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe not a couple of years, but close.
Yeah, and it also builds you a thing as well, which is good, because if you're wanting to get into the industry, eventually, one day, you're going to meet somebody called an AD, or as we call them, art directors. And
Yep.
their whole job is to look at your paintings and decide if they're good enough or not. You know what I mean? So if they give you
And if not, tell you exactly how you can get good enough so then they can hire you and actually get someone on their project, because that's their bottom line.
yeah, and I mean, they haven't got time to waste on guys who can't listen to feedback or can't take advice on board, because that's a huge thing. Even guys, Colin, to other people who aren't at your level, people will look at Colin and go, your stuff's incredible. But then Colin say, well, it is, but then I still want to do, and it's the same thing, because now Colin's talking to George, who is, of course, George. He's giving Colin feedback, and Colin's not going, well, fuck you, my stuff's awesome, and other people think so. He's going, oh, that's great, George, thanks for your feedback, I'll take
Going
that.
downstairs, I'm doing it, and then I'm showing him like either like a couple hours to a day later. He's like, okay, you actually implemented my advice. Cool, now do this thing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, cool, and I go off and do that thing.
Yeah, and it's basically like being a sponge. I mean, like, the thing is, going into this job, Colin will be taking every single drop of advice George is dishing out.
Not just George, everybody around me. But
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, because obviously at this point in the studio, probably most people in the studio are a lot more experienced than Colin, so he will then feed off that like a sponge to try and encompass as much learning as he can, so he can then take that to his next career. Yeah, which is
Or
important.
just like if I move up in the company itself, then I can move it to a slightly more senior position. Or again, if I don't stay beyond my first contract, then to another studio. You know, like even if for example, I'm working in TV animation right now. even if I move to a game studio, all that studio experience still applies. And I can
Oh yeah.
the next studio that I integrate into, it might happen a little bit faster. I might know a little bit more about networking with people, which I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
after all that I've learned so far,
Yeah.
I think it'll be a little bit easier at the least.
Yeah, I mean, like even people, somebody was talking one time, but he wasn't working animation at the time because he was wanting to focus on games and he wasn't going to get stuck doing storyboards. And I was like, but dude, game studios still have storyboards. They still have a
Have
structure.
you seen all those Blizzard cinematics? They had to board all those cinematics, and the boards, like, they're so good. And
Yeah.
where you learn that is doing and that's actually one of the reasons why I really really love doing TV storyboards, because like, yeah, they're cartoony, yeah, they're blocked and composed specifically for Flash animation, which is rigged. So
Yeah.
like the staging is very very straight on, yada yada. But like learning how to do that, learning how to block and compose those kinds of shots, that's step one. You can't go, like you can't sprint before you run
Yeah.
or even walk. And this is like walking to running level.
Yeah.
Doing something for like Blizzard, all that storyboarding stuff, that's like sprinting or running a marathon, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. But
Yeah.
you got to start somewhere, you got to learn somewhere, and that's why I'm loving this right now, because like I'm picking up so many tips from these people, how to make a shot more, I don't know, distinct or clear, or no, like for example, you can't have three characters acting all crazy, doing gags in the same panel, because like no one's gonna know what to look at. It's all focus and stuff, eye
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
like it's basic cinematography, and if you don't want to learn cinematography, you're in the wrong fucking career. Like,
Exactly. You can't do an illustrative or even like a concept art type painting without knowing all that crazy cinematography stuff, because it's basic everything.
Yeah, I mean, you look at most big pieces of concept art now, it's usually a guy or a girl standing on the edge of a cliff, looking over a city, looking over a mountain range. Those same shots.
Usually have a red scarf and or a stick.
Yeah, and like you'll see those shots replicated in a movie every time because it's basic cinematography. It's an establishing shot. That's what people are painting.
Background, you have
Yeah.
to establish your scene before you go into the building, because if you just start in the building, unless that was your intention in the beginning, the audience isn't going to know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
You establish the scene first, and you learn that by going to, like if you want to start somewhere, start in a TV animation studio, because they're going to teach you all that stuff. And even if they're not teaching you it, you're just going to pick it up by osmosis when you're learning.
Yeah, oh,
That's
definitely.
the other thing I really like about George. He's like, okay, you know what? Rather than sitting down and teaching you all this stuff over 2 weeks, we're just going to throw you right into this shit, and you can handle it. And I was just like, can I? And he was just like, yes, yes, you can.
But that's the thing as well, is that even working in animation is it's a key component that works through every painting as well, and it's storytelling. Every single painting you will make will be
Hell
so
yes.
much more interesting if you're telling a story while you're doing it. You know what I mean?
That's
And,
why you got to be thinking so much, because you got to be thinking, like, what is the story of this scene? And not only what is it, but how do I get that across in the clearest way possible?
Yeah.
Unless your intention is to make it really, really jumbled and not so clear.
Yeah, I mean, like a perfect example is the Star Wars piece you done for the ILM challenge. I mean, you didn't get to submit it obviously, but it was, I'm trying to think of the story, but yeah, it was the guys who were on break. The rebels were on break. They were sitting, and you had to convey in that painting. Yeah, they're on break. They're sitting. They're laughing. They're having a goof. There's two guys in the middle having a wee joke about an AT-AT that's just fell over. But there's a whole range across that entire painting.
There's a drunk guy, like, climbing up one of the X-Wing engines. Yeah, I actually had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, but no, I mean that's storytelling. You could have just painted a scene with a couple of barrels and a hangar and a ship, but you were like, I want to fill this full of people, and not only just people laughing, people drunk, people falling over, and that's again.
Stormtrooper and an Imperial officer captured by the rebels, but the rebels aren't treating them, like total not human, that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. So, and this is the stuff you learn by just opening your mind and just listening and being patient and. Yeah, just again, basic life lessons. Don't be a dick. So,
Don't be a dick. That's like that should be in them. We should just rewrite the 10 Commandments and make them all don't be a dick.
Thou shall not be a dick. Yeah, definitely. No, but I mean, it's just it sounds like the most basic of knowledge that people would just go into the industry with anyway. But I've heard so many stories from art directors and guys in the industry who have took on people who just have the wrong way of thinking, and within a couple
and it's not even that they're bad people or that they are dicks, it's just they haven't put the thought in, and they're like, oh wait, actually I have to act like a professional, and like it sounds like you just take it for granted and just like think about it by default, but it's actually a mentality and a skill you have to pick up and you have to learn.
Yeah, I mean, one of the guys I know that works at an animation studio for EA, they got an intern guy in and they were doing a storyboarding session, and he was also just meant to be sitting there taking notes and learning, but
Mhm.
he had an idea for a scene composite of like how they would work the camera, and then one of the 3D guys immediately was like, well, you can't do that because the way we composite the camera, it'll move through something and it'll clip. And he was
Mhm.
like, and just by saying that simple thing where he thought he was helping with no a great amount of knowledge and no listening to everybody around him, he then to everybody seemed like an idiot. So,
Mhm.
you
That's
know,
why, going back to what Chris Hadfield said in his book, aim to be a zero. When you're
yeah,
first integrating into a setting, into a studio, it's better to just sit back, observe, keep your head down. It's not actually a bad thing, because eventually people are just going to get interested in you. They're going to be like, "Who the hell is this guy over here doing this, cool looking stuff? I don't know him. I'm going to go talk to him." That
yeah,
kind of thing. Or her, being all,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, but definitely. I mean, like if people are seeing your work and you're there for long enough, eventually, if Colin's in a meeting, George will probably go, Colin, what do you think? And then that is then your cue to be like, apart from going, to go, well, actually, I think, and then yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. If somebody's wanting your opinion in that kind of setting, they'll definitely ask for it.
Hmm.
Yeah, and we're not saying don't be afraid to speak, obviously, but more forethought, I think, before you actually open your mouth
Yeah.
is ideal. Because yeah, eventually, like Colin says, you'll get to a point where people will want your opinion.
Yeah.
So
But initially, if you think that you don't really have a heck of a lot to add, or you might not have the experience to say like just say something that'll actually add to the situation,
yeah,
best thing to probably do is just to not say anything, and
yeah,
wait until you are more confident in your own skills. And
yeah,
you know what? Maybe you're undershooting yourself. Maybe you're underestimating what you actually know. But
mhm,
it's always better to do that than to try to be a plus one and
yeah.
end up just being a negative in the whole situation.
Yeah, definitely. Just sit back, take in what people are saying, and of course, if you're at, myself or Colin's level or lower, and you've not been in the industry for 20, 30 years, there is going to be so many more people in that room that know more than you, and the idea is just to open your ears and soak in as much as you can of what they're saying,
Hmm.
because you'll learn so much about everything, and then, just take
It's just
notes.
like a normal conversation. Like honestly, rather than talking about yourself, which of course we're doing on this podcast, but that's the whole
Yeah,
point. But
yeah, yeah,
when you're in a conversation with someone, like, people will like you better if you make the conversation more about them. And even if you don't say a heck of a lot and they're doing all the talking, afterwards they're going to be like, "Whoa, that was a really good conversation. I don't know why, but it was
yeah,
because you kept redirecting all of the whole direction of the conversation back at them." And they're gonna be like, "Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I like this person." Not
yeah,
because you were even being that nice. You were just making them talk about themselves. People
yeah.
love talking about themselves.
Yeah, and that's a whole deeper subject of NLP and neurological linguistic programming and stuff like that, and making people feel happier about themselves, like Colin saying, because you're making the conversation about them. But yeah, it's just a life lesson. I think
Just from a practical perspective, it like you have like you're not going to learn anything new by talking about yourself, unless of
yeah,
course you're just trying to work something out. You need to get it out there. But you just have so much more to learn from other people than yourself, so you
yeah,
might as well do more listening.
yeah. The biggest melting pot in the world. We should all be more like those people. So yeah, I think that should be roughly us for this week,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you again for Colin for joining me and giving up his time and his precious time for sitting at the
No
computer.
problemo. Thank you, sir.
Yes, indeed. We will try and make this a little bit more regular. Again, with us both being busy people, Colin obviously more than me, but yeah, trying to get time is a luxury at the moment.
I think it'll get easier as we go.
Yeah, definitely. Once we get in the rhythm of making these, it'll come fast and furious.
Hmm.
So again, for myself, if you want to check out any of my stuff, I am at gordonneill.com. I will be posting all the show links below in the show notes as well if you want to find any of our stuff. But yeah, gordonneill.com. I'm actually going to be redesigning my website in a couple of weeks, so that'll be all kind of up in the air. But I'm on Facebook as well at Gordon Neill Art, Instagram, Twitter, Patreon, a lot of other stuff. You will find me in lots of places. Just Google my name. And Colin, of course.
I'm on ArtStation. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, and that'll all be posted too.
Yes, definitely. And again, for anybody who is listening who wants to email us, I'll leave an email below. But again, if you find Colin's stuff on ArtStation or myself, and you want to ask us any questions about techniques,
We are
um,
both more than happy to talk to you guys for as long as you need.
yeah, we're not going to talk about networking for the best part of an hour and then not respond to anybody who emails us.
Exactly.
So
That would be the like the definition of hypocritical.
hypocritical,
Oh,
yeah.
we're so busy, we can't talk to you.
No, we're always looking to talk to more people and pass on what we've learned. And of course, Colin has a few things he'll probably talk about in the future about learning and tutorials and stuff as well. But yeah, Colin's always there to give feedback and to help you guys grow. That's the whole way. And that's a life lesson as well. Just to end on the podcast is that we talked about how the most successful people always want to bring people up with them, and it's definitely something you should encourage.
Everybody is a student, and
Yeah.
we're all bringing each other up to the next level of being a student.
Yes, definitely. Forever a student. Okay, guys, so thanks very much for tuning in. Again, this will be on YouTube, and we're going to, hopefully this week or the week after, I'm going to finally go through all the red tape to get this on iTunes as a podcast, and then that will be a bit more official. But you'll find us on YouTube just now. Like and comment if you can, guys. Give us some feedback about what you think about subject-wise and what you want to talk about. We've also got some guests that we're talking about getting on as well from Colin's side and myself. And yeah, just stay tuned and keep listening, guys. Thanks very much for listening.